J.D. Vance's take on the growing tensions between Elon Musk and Donald Trump has pulled back the curtain on what many believed was just another online feud. At first glance, the back and forth seemed like a clash of oversized personalities. Musk, with his sharp, often cryptic tweets, and Trump with his direct, no-filter posts on Truth Social, two giants throwing digital punches. But according to Vance, this isn't about hurt feelings or bruised egos. This is about something far more strategic: the battle for political influence, particularly within the conservative movement. Vance, who has built his own reputation on being a sharp political analyst and an insider of the GOP's evolving dynamics, made it clear that people are missing the deeper context. In a recent interview, he emphasized that what's happening isn't personal, it's tactical. It's about who will define and drive the Republican Party's message in the coming years. In his view, Musk and Trump aren't just influencers, they're architects of competing conservative futures. Trump, for all his bravado, remains the central figure in the populist movement that exploded in 2016. His appeal to working-class voters, his America First rhetoric, and his fierce nationalism continue to shape the GOP's voter base. He's built a loyal following that sees him not just as a politician, but as a cultural leader. Trump has used this loyalty as a kind of political currency. If he endorses someone, it carries real weight. Elon Musk, by contrast, is a relative newcomer to the political sphere, at least in terms of direct engagement. But what he lacks in political tradition, he makes up for in influence. With millions of followers and a personal platform in X, formerly Twitter, Musk wields his reach like a megaphone for a distinct brand of conservatism. It's libertarian at its core, anti-woke, anti-bureaucracy, pro-innovation, but also deeply skeptical of traditional party politics. Musk doesn't want to lead the GOP in the conventional sense. According to Vance, he wants to reshape it from the outside in. And that's where the real tension lies. Vance points out that Musk's approach threatens the way political influence has traditionally worked in conservative circles. Trump rose to power by dominating media cycles and commanding rallies. Musk, meanwhile, is shaping public opinion through algorithms, engagement, and viral discourse. In many ways, he represents a decentralized form of influence, one that's harder to predict and even harder to control. Vance emphasized that this isn't just theoretical. Behind closed doors, major decisions are being shaped by these dynamics. Political donors, campaign strategists, and even elected officials are watching closely to see which way the wind is blowing. Some are caught between the two camps, unsure of whether to align with Trump's tried-and-true base or to tap into the Musk-driven online ecosystem that's rapidly gaining clout. Vance made it clear, the pressure is real and the stakes are high. There's also a subtle but important factor at play: how each man defines loyalty and legitimacy. Trump demands visible allegiance. He expects those in his orbit to stand by him unequivocally, often punishing dissent. Musk, on the other hand, is more about ideological alignment and intellectual independence. He's not necessarily looking for followers. He's looking for allies who will challenge the status quo. Vance noted that this difference in leadership style is fueling the current online friction. It's not about who insulted who first. It's about whose vision people are rallying behind. The tension reached a new peak when both men began signaling support for the same emerging political figures. According to Vance, this was no coincidence. It's part of a larger maneuver to plant ideological flags in the ground. Each wants to shape the future of conservative leadership, not just by backing candidates, but by defining what it means to be conservative in the first place. Vance observed that this isn't just a squabble, it's a strategic divergence, and both parties are fully aware of what's at stake. In peeling back the layers, Vance helps make sense of the noise. The tweets, the jabs, the public snipes, they're all surface level. The real story is unfolding behind the scenes, in conversations about money, messaging, and momentum. It's a fight for ideological ownership, and the arena just happens to be online. When J.D. Vance weighed in on the ongoing conflict between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, he didn't just point to a personality clash. He outlined a deeper ideological divide that's pulling the conservative movement in two different directions. According to Vance, Musk and Trump are not only different figures in terms of tone and approach, they represent two fundamentally contrasting visions of what conservatism should look like going forward. Trump's version of conservatism is rooted in the populist wave that began in earnest with his 2016 campaign. It's deeply nationalist, suspicious of globalism, and focused on cultural and economic protectionism. Trump speaks to a voter base that feels left behind by globalization and betrayed by political elites. His policies, though often polarizing, are built around the idea that America should prioritize its own citizens, especially its working class, over international interests. That means tough talk on trade, a skeptical view of immigration, and a near-total rejection of the kind of technocratic consensus that dominated Washington before he came onto the scene. On the other side of the spectrum, Musk's ideology, while certainly conservative in some areas, is shaped by a very different set of principles. He's not a populist in the traditional sense. In fact, J.D. Vance described Musk's approach as tech libertarian, skeptical of government regulation, fiercely protective of free speech, and driven by a futuristic vision of innovation and disruption. Musk's public opposition to things like censorship, woke culture, and centralized authority positions him as a hero to many on the right. But it's not the same kind of conservatism Trump champions. Musk isn't appealing to economic anxiety or cultural nostalgia. He's betting on a forward-looking coalition built around freedom of expression, decentralized power, and the promise of technological advancement. This contrast is what Vance believes lies at the heart of their conflict. Trump's conservatism is grounded in the past, restoring what was lost, protecting traditional values, rebuilding a version of America many feel has been eroded. Musk's conservatism, if you can even call it that in the traditional sense, is rooted in the future, pushing boundaries, rethinking institutions, and championing the kind of radical change that makes many traditionalists uncomfortable. They might share a dislike for the same political enemies, but their goals diverge sharply beyond that point. Vance also highlighted the way these two figures view power and governance. Trump sees the political process as the battleground. He wants to win elections, seat loyal officials, and bend institutions to his will. Musk, in contrast, seems more focused on operating outside the traditional political arena. By owning a social media platform like X, for instance, Musk doesn't need a congressional seat to influence public debate. He's building infrastructure, digital, cultural, and ideological, that bypasses traditional political levers. And in doing so, he's redefining what influence looks like in today's conservative landscape. Vance noted that this divergence creates confusion, especially for voters and political operatives who feel drawn to both figures but can't reconcile their conflicting priorities. One offers a return to national strength through populist governance. The other promotes a kind of techno-freedomism that resists any form of centralized control, including that of a populist state. Both reject the mainstream left, but their paths forward are fundamentally at odds. Another layer Vance addressed is how each man appeals to different demographics. Trump's base is overwhelmingly working class, older, and often rural or suburban. They're people who resonate with his blunt messaging, his attacks on elites, and his emphasis on law, order, and national pride. Musk's audience is more online, more international, often younger, and more interested in issues like digital freedom, artificial intelligence, and the threat of bureaucratic overreach. They're not necessarily conservative in the traditional sense, but they are disillusioned with liberal institutions and are looking for alternatives. That's why, in Vance's view, the fight between Musk and Trump is more than a side note in the 2024 and 2028 political landscape. It's a sign of an identity crisis within conservatism itself. Is the future of the right a populist movement centered on tradition and nationhood, or is it a decentralized, tech-fueled movement rooted in libertarian ideals and resistance to control? Vance made it clear that these aren't just theoretical questions. They're actively shaping the decisions being made at the top levels of Republican politics right now. By framing the Musk-Trump conflict in terms of ideological divergence, Vance helps explain why their occasional online skirmishes feel so charged. It's not just about clashing egos. It's about competing visions. each pulling at the base of the conservative movement in different and sometimes incompatible directions. J.D. Vance has played a key role in shedding light on what's really going on beneath the surface of the online conflict between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. While much of the public focuses on the visible jabs and posts traded between the two, Vance points to a much more strategic and consequential development happening behind the scenes. Both Musk and Trump are working to shape the future of the Republican Party by influencing who will lead it next. This is not a theoretical debate about ideology. It's a hands-on effort to steer the direction of conservative politics through the next generation of political candidates. According to Vance, what makes this dynamic particularly important is how directly both men are involved in supporting rising political figures. Trump, of course, has been a kingmaker in the Republican Party for years. His endorsements can make or break primary campaigns, and candidates across the country often reshape their platforms to gain his approval. His backing is still seen as a seal of authenticity among many GOP voters, particularly in states where his populist message remains dominant. However, what's new and disruptive is the way Elon Musk has begun to insert himself into this process. J.D. Vance explained that Musk isn't just commenting on politics from afar anymore. He's actively working to elevate voices and candidates who align with his values. Whether it's through direct engagement on X, public endorsements, or behind-the-scenes support, Musk is using his vast influence to promote a vision of leadership that reflects his own ideology. That vision includes a focus on free speech absolutism, deregulation, resistance to government surveillance, and a broader rejection of what he sees as ideological conformity in both government and corporate institutions. Vance noted that many of the individuals both Musk and Trump are circling are young, media-savvy, and aware of the shifting dynamics within the GOP. These potential leaders aren't just waiting for endorsements, they're actively navigating which camp to align with. In some cases, they found themselves caught in the middle, trying to appeal to Trump's deeply loyal base while also tapping into the expansive digital reach and fundraising potential that comes from Musk's network. This has created a kind of political tension within the party that most voters don't see. As Vance explained, behind closed doors, strategists, donors, and candidates are paying close attention to the influence both Trump and Musk are exerting. These two figures aren't just shaping policy discussions, they're shaping political futures. And that means their rivalry isn't just symbolic, it's deeply practical. For candidates, aligning with Trump comes with clear expectations. He demands loyalty, consistency, and public support. He wants to know that the people he backs will defend his version of the Republican Party, one that prioritizes national sovereignty, economic protectionism, and traditional values. Candidates who stray from that path often find themselves quickly cast aside. Musk, meanwhile, offers a very different kind of support. According to Vance, Musk's influence comes less from party infrastructure and more from cultural cachet. A retweet or endorsement from Musk can launch someone into the national spotlight almost instantly. His backing often signals that a candidate is anti-establishment, independent-minded, and unafraid to challenge the narratives of both mainstream media and political elites. But that support doesn't come with the same clear ideological boundaries. Musk isn't interested in gatekeeping the Republican Party. He's interested in shifting its energy toward innovation, disruption, and a new kind of political freedom. Vance pointed out that this dual-track influence creates real challenges for the Republican Party. There is no unified conservative message anymore, not when two of its most powerful voices are pushing in different directions. For candidates, this means making hard choices about their political identities. Do they double down on Trump-style populism with its loyal base and clear direction? Or do they embrace Musk's vision of decentralized, digital-first conservatism, with all the unpredictability that entails? This isn't just a matter of political preference, it's a question of survival. Vance made it clear that the future of many political careers may depend on which side ultimately proves more influential. That's why so many up-and-coming conservatives are carefully watching the Musk-Trump dynamic. It's not just entertainment, it's a preview of the power struggles that will define the GOP in the post-Trump era. Through Vance's lens, it becomes obvious that this isn't a distant, abstract fight. It's happening now, in real time, through endorsements, digital influence, and fundraising moves. And the young political figures emerging today will carry the legacy of whichever vision wins out.
JD Vance has offered a compelling perspective on the highly visible online feud between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, one that moves beyond surface-level interpretation. While to many observers the back and forth might look like two powerful personalities
clashing on social media, Vance argues that this is merely the visible part of a much more significant and carefully calculated struggle. According to him, what's playing out online is the tip of a much deeper political iceberg, a battle over control, influence, and long-term strategic power within the conservative movement. Vance doesn't downplay the theatrics. He acknowledges that both Musk and Trump have unique styles when it comes to public discourse. Trump's truth social posts remain blunt, often combative, and designed to dominate headlines. Musk, operating from his platform X, takes a more cryptic but persistent approach, mixing memes, sarcasm, and ideological commentary to stir up debate and rally support. On the surface, it looks like digital sparring, but Vance insists that these online moves are tightly connected to broader ambitions, especially as the Republican Party prepares for future elections and a shifting base of voters. The public sees the viral moments, the tweets, the posts, the mutual jabs, but they don't always see the strategy behind them. Vance explained that both Trump and Musk are fully aware of how their online personas influence not just public opinion, but also the internal dynamics of the GOP. Every message they post, every swipe they take at one another, is part of a larger chessboard move aimed at reshaping how power flows within the party and who gets to hold the reins in the coming political cycles. Trump, who has long relied on direct communication with his base, uses his platform to signal authority and reinforce loyalty. When he takes aim at figures like Musk, it's not just about personal irritation, it's a way to remind his followers who the true leader of the movement is. Trump's posts serve as boundary markers, drawing clear lines about who is inside his political circle and who is not. He uses public conflict to enforce hierarchy and test the loyalty of both his allies and his audience. Musk, meanwhile, has a more diffuse but equally potent form of influence. As JD Vance points out, Musk doesn't need to run for office to shape political outcomes. By owning a major communication platform and consistently engaging with political issues, he has created a kind of parallel ecosystem of power, one that doesn't rely on traditional institutions but still affects them deeply. His ability to amplify certain voices, inject new narratives into the public discourse, and shape online opinion in real time makes him a force that political figures cannot ignore. What Vance emphasizes is that the real battle isn't playing out in public alone. It's happening in donor meetings, private strategy calls, and behind closed doors where deals are being made and future alliances are being negotiated. The tension between Trump and Musk is emblematic of a broader shift in the conservative movement, a move away from a single dominant leader toward a more fragmented competitive environment where influence is contested on multiple fronts. This shift has real consequences for how decisions are made within the party. Vance notes that both men are actively trying to shape not only the message of the conservative movement, but also the mechanisms of how that message is delivered. Trump is focused on maintaining centralized influence, rallies, endorsements, loyalty tests, while Musk is encouraging a decentralized, online-driven model of political engagement. These different models don't just affect campaigns, they affect how the conservative base understands power, loyalty, and leadership. According to Vance, the online sparring is often a signal to the broader conservative ecosystem. It tells donors where to place their money, tells operatives where to focus their messaging, and tells rising figures which ideological vision might be safer to align with. The stakes, therefore, are far greater than what appears on screen. These public confrontations are strategic cues in a much larger power play that's quietly defining the future of the GOP. By framing it this way, Vance cuts through the noise and clarifies why this moment matters. The conflict between Musk and Trump is not simply two strong personalities disagreeing. It's a carefully staged battle for influence, using digital tools and public theatrics to shape the behavior of candidates, voters, and power brokers alike. And while the average observer might only catch glimpses of it in the form of sharp posts or news headlines, those in the political inner circle, people like Vance, understand exactly how deliberate and far-reaching this struggle really is. As J.D. Vance has made clear, the high-profile online skirmishes between Elon Musk and Donald Trump are not just noise, they're signals. They point to a deeper ideological and strategic conflict within the conservative movement, one that could define the Republican Party for years to come. This is not simply about who gets more likes or shares on social media. It's about who gets to set the tone, define the values, and build the infrastructure for the next phase of right-wing politics in America. Both Musk and Trump have amassed significant influence, but they are playing fundamentally different games. Trump is operating within the traditional framework of political power: campaigns, endorsements, party machinery, and direct voter mobilization. Musk is disrupting that model, offering a vision that bypasses conventional politics and speaks directly to an online, tech-savvy audience. His power lies in his ability to control platforms, create narratives, and introduce new voices into the conversation. These are not just competing strategies, they are competing visions for what political engagement should look like in the 21st century. J.D. Vance's insights are critical because he's not merely observing this conflict from the outside, he's in the middle of it. As a U.S. Senator with strong ties to Trump's base and a deep understanding of how digital influence shapes modern politics, Vance is uniquely positioned to interpret what's happening. His analysis suggests that what looks like a personal spat is, in fact, a deliberate struggle over how conservatism evolves. Will it remain anchored in Trump's populist nationalism, with its focus on sovereignty, tradition, and loyalty? Or will it shift toward Musk's decentralized futurist ideology, one that is more fluid, more rebellious, and less beholden to the political structures of the past? The answer may not come quickly. As Vance hinted, many rising political figures are caught in the middle, trying to balance loyalty to Trump's established base while also courting the attention and amplification Musk can provide. The Republican Party, far from being a unified bloc, is increasingly becoming a coalition of diverging interests. And how it resolves those internal tensions could determine not only who wins elections, but what the party stands for once those elections are over. In that light, the Musk-Trump conflict isn't a distraction. It's a forecast. It's showing us, in real time, the battle lines being drawn for control of conservative identity and influence. As J.D. Vance put it, this isn't about personality clashes. It's about power and the future of the movement that shapes a major part of American political life. The real question isn't who's louder online. It's who will own the message when the dust settles.